So we have a little bit of an update on the Daus Mendoza and Nick from Love Island situation, which, by the way, I'm low-key kind of surprised that a lot of y'all were not interested in that video because I was like, oh my gosh, why did I think this was like so juicy? I was like, I thought y'all were gonna be like really interested in it, and then it's like literally like I think my least watched video in the past like I don't know how many months. I was like, oh, why did I think this was some like big juicy tea? Because it was blowing up on TikTok. Like I'm talking about millions of views. Okay, so I was like, what's going on over here? Maybe it was just the algorithm. I don't know, but y'all know that I was like, maybe I thought it was like much more of a bigger deal than what it was. Is because I was like, oh, this is like the makeup industry crossing over to Love Island. So to me, it was like, ooh, my two like recent like current obsessions are like crossing over. Do you know what I mean? And having beef. Which, by the way, if you guys don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, I did do a full video about this. I'll link it down below or link it on the screen or something like that, so that way you guys can check it out. But I will give you guys a bit of context about this situation. If you guys do not know, Daus Mendoza went to, I believe it was a rare beauty event that he was invited to, which, by the way, I have to say, like, a lot of people were saying, oh, this is so weird for like Nick from Love Island to even be there, but I was like, I think it kind of makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like obviously he was there with Alandria, and oh my gosh, like she does her makeup so good, by the way. Like every time that I look at her, recently I just saw her on Watch What Happens Live, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if she does her makeup herself, but I'm just assuming that she does because watching her on Love Island, I was like, damn, like she always looks beat. Like it looks so good. Like if she didn't do her makeup, I don't really know, but either which way, it looks good. So I was just kind of like, look, they're the it people in town right now. Obviously, it would be very beneficial for Rare Beauty to invite them out, obviously for press. So I didn't quite understand why people were saying they didn't understand why people from Love Island were even at a beauty event, or that a man or straight man was at a beauty event. But I was like, I think it kind of makes sense to me. Anyways, y'all, well, at this event, apparently Nick from Love Island called Daus Mendoza James Charles, and I guess he was really pressed about that. He did have conflicting statements. I do have to say, like looking back at the situation and looking at what Daus had said, it didn't really make sense to me. It seems like he was making it seem more dramatic after the fact rather than in the video, because honestly, if you guys watched my first video about this, in the very first video, it did seem that he was kind of like reaching a little bit much, and it seemed like low-key he had his ego hurt. It seemed like he had his pride hurt, that like, oh, this guy called him James Charles, and he had got out there and said like, oh, this seems like derogatory to call a feminine boy or a boy in makeup, which you guys will see within his video, that it is like, you know, hurtful or whatever. And I'm like, honestly, y'all, I got to keep it real with you guys. I know the younger generation is so much more different than me. Obviously, I'm 35 years old. Daus Mendoza, I believe, is 19 or 20 years old. So obviously we have a huge age gap. I have been a boy in beauty for years, and I just have never heard about being called James Charles as a derogatory term. I don't. Maybe that's just like certain people. Obviously, I wouldn't be called James Charles because obviously I don't look jack shit like him. Do you know what I'm saying? But I do got to keep it real. I didn't think that it was that big of a reach for like Nick to even accidentally, let's just say, call Daus Mendoza James Charles, because looking at their side-by-side pictures, I was like, you guys do have quite a few resemblances. Like, honestly, like, yeah, they're not twins, but even everybody that had watched my video were like, yeah, low-key, they do kind of resemble each other. So I didn't really see like how this was so hurtful. After the fact, he tried to say like, no, I corrected him, and he laughed about it. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say that in the original video? And that's honestly, you know what, I ended up like reading more comments too, and a lot of people were saying that too. Like, if he offended you so much by you correcting him and him laughing in your face, why didn't you say that in the video? That would have been the first thing on my mind of like, y'all, don't get it twisted. I corrected him and said, no, my name's Daus, not James. And he laughed in my face. Like, that would have been the biggest point to me, because low-key, I would have been impressed. You know what I mean? Like, then I would have been like, okay, now I'm hurt. Now I'm bothered. Now I'm like, oh, I'm the butt of your joke over there. So that would make more sense to me, but it didn't come out that way. Well, now Daus has actually made an apology about this whole entire situation because it blew up so much online. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, you know what's so crazy is maybe because I'm an overthinker, like sometimes y'all know I'll be like, let me know if I'm reaching, maybe I'm overthinking, and I am an overthinker, so sometimes I'm just kind of like, you know what, is that reaching? And I'll even call myself out. I see a lot of these like TikTok drama channels, and I'm like, oh, like if I think that I'm reaching, and y'all, my version of reaching is like, maybe they meant it in this way and not that way. Y'all, people on TikTok, okay, well, I shouldn't say people, but like drama channels on TikTok were saying that because I guess like the next day or maybe like 2 days later, it could have even been within 3 days after that situation had happened between Nick and Daus, I guess Alandria had posted a picture of her getting her glam done, and there was a picture of James Charles' palette. Like, it was in the picture. So everybody was like, oh, like she's over here like throwing shade at Daus. I don't know if that was the truth. I don't know if she really was, or it just so happened to be, just there on display. But it was only like, I want to say maybe like 25% of the palette was shown, but obviously you could see that it was James Charles' painted palette. So I was like, oh, damn, low key, that is kind of funny if she is throwing shade like that. Anyways, after the whole situation, it blew up, and y'all, Daus was getting so much hate for this situation. And y'all know I even said in my last video, y'all, my chair is like slowly sinking. Like the hydraulics are literally giving out as I speak. Like, oh my gosh, I lost weight. What happened? Anyways, y'all, in that video, if you guys had checked it out, I had said, like, I like Daus Mendoza. He seems really chill. He seems very entertaining. And also too, you already know that I already said I really did like the fact that when he did a review of Patrick Starr's product, he said he didn't like it, because I was like, y'all, a lot of these influencers are fake as hell and they won't say that their friend's product is bad. And I don't know, I think that that takes a lot of courage, obviously, to say that your friend's product is not so good, or it doesn't work for you, or whatever the case may be. So I do like him. However, within that certain situation, I was like, oh, girl, you are doing the most. Like, oh my God, like, why are you making this into such a big deal? Like, it didn't really seem like it needed to be this whole blow up thing. Do you know what I mean? And it blew up, and it did not blow up in his favor, y'all. Like, honestly, a lot of people were going at him. But I do have to say, based upon what he posted, the video he posted, it really did seem like he was being, he was trying so hard to just be like, catty towards him. And it was just like, okay, you're doing the most right now. Also, too, I forgot to even mention in my first video, I was like, the fact that he was like this Nikolai ass, like, it was like, okay, you clearly know his name, but you're trying so hard to try to make it seem like you don't know his name as like a jab back at him. Do you know what I mean? And it just looks like you're burying yourself deeper within this. Anyways, he did issue an apology about this whole entire situation, and y'all, I'm probably gonna have to bleep it out because he did make a comment towards James Charles, and this is where I'm just kind of like, oh, damn. Him calling out James Charles in this whole mix of it by calling him a P, the P word, let's just say, because y'all know I can't be saying it up on here. You know what's so crazy, though, is like when I say it, maybe because I've talked about James Charles before, when I say the P word and I say it like, fully, my video will get demonetized. Like, it'll get that, like, automatic like thing to it. But it's so crazy that I see other people on YouTube say it as well, so I'm a little thrown off here. Like, why can't I do it? Maybe my account is already like red flag, so it's like more sensitive. I don't really know. But basically, Daus had said that, like, oh, it's offensive to be calling, me, this person's name, when he's a P word. Do you know what I mean? Which I was like, oh, damn. I gotta say this too, okay? Maybe I'm, doing a little bit much here, okay? But I do have to say, like, he was the one using James Charles products, like, for a hot minute now, and he was even raving about them too. He's done TikToks about them. He's used them before. I think he did his cousin's makeup for her quince and, like, liked his blushes. And then as soon as the Kayla situation had came out, then all of a sudden he spoke out, which I found to be a little bit weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, why all of a sudden now are you calling him the P word when those allegations against him were obviously from years ago by calling him the P word? Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, to me, it was just kind of like, is this performative? Are you doing this just right now to plead your case and make it be like, yeah, this is why it's more offensive? Do you know what I mean? Because for years now, obviously, we've known about these allegations about James Charles. So I'm like, why all of a sudden are you barely saying it now? And then now he's, obviously saying it again. Anyways, I do want to go ahead and play his apology to Nick. Go ahead and check it out.
Now, my PR team would rather me stay quiet and not say a single word and let shit blow over, but that is just not me. I feel like things have been blown way out of proportion to the point where there's literally people lying on my name, and that is just something that I do not play with. First things first, when I say the word bitch, I do not mean it in a derogatory way at all whatsoever. And that's just the first thing that I want to clear up. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like you guys didn't see the video that I created, and if you haven't seen it, bitch, it's all over the just go look at it. And any comment of me calling anybody a bitch is completely fabricated and fake. Honestly, the proof is in the pudding. You guys try commenting bitch right now, TikTok will literally not let you. So they would never let a comment of me calling somebody a bitch get to, I don't even know what the edited comment was at, 137 likes. Now, not that this really matters, but I did not watch the season of Love Island. I've actually never watched Love Island. The only season I've watched was the last season that went really viral. So I know nothing about anybody from the season of Love Island besides Huda. It's only because of how viral she went on TikTok, so I would see clips of her. And the only other things I know about Love Island is whatever my cuñada tells me. So I genuinely did not know who Nick was until after the situation happened. I FaceTimed my cuñada to ask who these group of guys were, and she basically told me that they were from Love Island. And that is when I made the video out of anger and frustration, calling Nick a bunch of names I shouldn't have called him. So I just want to sincerely apologize to Nick, which I already have sent a DM to him before this video because I was like, why am I gonna make this whole video apologizing to the world when it should be going to Nick? And just say that I made this video out of anger and frustration, and I am trying to believe that you calling me James was not out of like bullying and more so just out of a genuine mistake. I understand how this could be a simple mistake, but I grew up with mediocre straight men using that name in a form of bullying. It is something that has been in the beauty community amongst literally all fanboys that do makeup. I'm not even kidding. All of us have all been called James at least once. For those of you that clearly don't know, calling a fanboy James is like another way of saying the word It is something that has been in the beauty community for like the longest time, but I understand why those of you that are not really in like the LGBT world don't know that. But I just want you guys to know that in my perspective, it has always been used in a bullying manner. So when Nick called me James 6 times, as I was walking past him, trying to get my attention, I fully took it as like bullying and trying to make fun of me, which I got so uncomfortable because I am at a makeup event where I'm supposed to be like in my space and I'm supposed to be in like the area where I'm most comfortable in. So when he said that, and I turned back and I said, I'm not James. And then he then turned to his friends and laughed. I understand he could have easily been laughing because, you know, he was like, oh fuck, like he's not James, haha, funny. But to me, I completely took it as like, oh, you fully were trying to bully me. Because that's the only way it has ever been growing up doing makeup. It has never been an honest mistake, ever. I understand that to the blind eye, there's a few similarities between me and James. But genuinely, James is 5'7" with a BBL. I am 6'2" and skinny as there's no comparison, at least in person. But honestly, at the same time, I understand. Maybe Nick has never met James in person, so he doesn't know what James looks like in person. But even then, why call me James 6 times if you've never met James before? I don't know. It's just all so weird, which is why the only answer in my head was he was bullying me or using it in like a harassment and mean type of way. So like I was saying, I really hope that Nick didn't mean it in a mean way. And if he didn't, I am really sorry for going online and talking a bunch of shit. That is like the complete opposite thing that I should have done. If anything, I should have just gone up to you in person at the event and asked you if you were actually mistaking me for this person or if you were just trying to be rude. Now, I've also been seeing a lot of people say that I kind of did this video for clout, and that's the only reason why I made that video. And I say this in the most non-bitchy, egotistical, like cocky way. I do not need clout. I have 5.6 million followers, and it is a community that I have built from nothing, from the ground up myself for the past 3 years. I have never had to use anybody for clout. I have never had to ever get into a fake scandal for clout. I have never had to even collab with anybody for clout. The only collabs I've ever done are with creators that I genuinely fuck with and love watching. So clout is the last thing I want or need. Now, on top of growing up being called James all the time because I'm a boy in feminine makeup and I don't like being called that, another reason I don't like being called that is because I don't want to be compared to somebody that literally has predator allegations. To somebody that has literally admitted to these allegations. Honestly, there's a lot of obvious reasons why I don't want to be compared to this person. So honestly, to me, it's just deeper than just like being called this my entire life. Not only am I not white, okay, so I'm Mexicano. Not only am I not, allegedly, into kids or abusers, justice for my girl Kayla, but I'm not obsessed with straight men and I don't need to scientifically articulate my body to make it look good. And that's just the real tea. Moral of the story, I probably took a simple mistake out of context. And I shouldn't have said half of the shit I said because half of them are probably not true. So Nick, I'm really sorry, and the rest of you guys can thank me for entertaining the internet for like the past 5 days. Side note, it's honestly crazy how quick people are to switch up because I saw a lot of femboys also making videos, which is hilarious because these femboys are the exact femboys that literally followed me like less than a week ago. And honestly, you probably had my makeup collection in your cart. That being said, there is no excuse for what I said and did, and for that, I'm sorry, Nick. And whether it matters or not, I really hope that you guys can just understand a little bit of where I was coming from.
Sorry I had to speed that up. Obviously, it was pretty damn long, but I did want to play like the majority of it because he said some things within there. And honestly, I do want to say at the end of the day, y'all already know I'm always going to say this, okay? I'm always going to be a defender of people are young, okay? I've said this time and time again. And the reason why I say that is because I'm just being real. Is when I was young, y'all, like I couldn't even imagine being 19 or 20 years old and being on the internet because I know exactly how I was back then and social media wasn't a thing back then. Like, honestly, like was YouTube even around then? Like maybe YouTube had barely started right then, which not very many people even knew what it was. Like to upload videos and things like that. Like I'm like, damn, if I was my full authentic self at 19 or 20 years old, like Lord knows I would have been canceled. Lord knows I would have been called out by everybody. I would have been called this, that, and the third. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is why when I see somebody act ignorant or they act childish or foolish or, you know, say something offensive or whatever, I always give grace because honestly, y'all, I would want that grace to be given back to me, especially because I was a hot mess of a teen, y'all. Anyways, a lot of people are now back to Daus's side. They were literally saying like within the comment section, like, wow, why'd this get blown up so much? People are acting like he offed somebody. Somebody said, girl, you was never wrong, for real. It's so funny that people be thinking Daus cares. Like multiple comments of now taking his side, but for days, y'all. And even there was still some people like commenting pictures of Nick or like pictures of like Nick and Alandria within his comments. But for days it was getting dragged on and I was like, damn, like maybe he had to issue an apology about this whole situation because maybe he thought like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be never ending. You know what I'm saying? Either which way, I don't really think it was that big of a deal. Like for him to even make a video about. So hopefully he does realize, process your emotions, take a couple days. Like if you're still bothered about, this is really something that I'm like trying to teach myself like for years. And I feel like it's always going to be a year. It's always going to be something in progress for me is that like, take my time, process it. If I still say, for example, if something that my friend said or done that like bothered me or, you know, even a sibling or, you know, family member, whatever the case may be, if somebody has done something that bothered me, let me take a couple days to see if I still feel the same way, because I know that I could be overreactive and I know that I could pop off. Okay. So now I've really learned, take my time, process it. And honestly, I really have found that when you take a couple of days to process your emotions and just think about things and be like, you know what? Do I really want to go about it this way, or do I want to go about it this way? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, as soon as you take that time, I really do think situations work out to be much more easy, much more smooth. And like, rather than being so reactive and impulsive, like, it really does work out in your benefit to take your time. You know what I'm saying? Which, like I said, okay, don't hold me to it, because I really do. Knowing the person that I am, I really do feel like this is going to be my life lesson. Like, I feel like I'm going to be in my 40s and 50s and still learning to be like, process, take your time, don't be impulsive, don't be reactive. Do you know what I mean? Because whew, I have learned the hard way that being reactive sometimes can really paint you out to be the villain, even if, say, for example, your feelings are very valid. But if you go about it in the wrong way and say the wrong thing, then it's like, bam, obviously you could be painted out to be the shittiest person on the planet. And I think that that's unfortunate. Anyways, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, Girl Scout.